when something goes wrong in our interaction with the state or interaction with business, we expect a recourse to law. We expect justice to be done to right the wrong that has been done to us. Forget it. Forget it. The justice system does not exist to right wrongs. The justice system exists to perpetuate the power of those that are in power.
Yeah.
It exists to perpetuate existing power dynamics, or if it fancies, to move into other power dynamics so that the people at the top can somehow keep their grip on power. Mm-hmm. So miscarriages of justice are the norm.
Hello again, everyone. So today with us yet again, we have Richard Abbott, who's going to be talking to us a little bit more about what Caesar is. We talked about Caesar last time, and you can check the video link at the top there. And also how much we should be engaging in Caesar's world. So welcome again, Richard. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, David. Thank you. Nice to see you.
So nice. Go on.
Caesar then.
Caesarly, right. So what, more specifically, because we went over the broad sense of in being the system, this proclivity that plays out through people last time, but how do people more specifically look out for Caesar in their day-to-day lives, within themselves, around themselves?
So Caesar is the system. It is a force that controls everything in what we might call time and space. Now that's a bit abstract, but let's begin with that. Caesar controls everything in time and space, which means that he doesn't control anything in the imaginable, spiritual, internal world. He doesn't control those things, but he does control all the things that go on in our external world. So Caesar runs the capitalist system, but he also runs the communist system. Mm-hmm. And he's also a conservative, and he's also a socialist, and he's green, and he's an anarchist as well. Because all these are systems, alternative competing systems in the outer world of time and space. Caesar is a traditionalist, but he's also an innovator. Caesar supports free and fair and open democratic elections, and also autocratic tyrannies, because both of those are systems in the outer world. He controls business, industry, finance, government, charity, the military, the police, the media, the internet. He appears at festivals and conferences and symposiums and garden parties and meetings in the pub when there used to be such things. He creates and shows himself in institutions and unions and guilds and associations. The church, the mosque, the synagogue, he's there as well. The temple, he's there. Because all these things are existing in time and space. Mm-hmm. He is the Inland Revenue, if you're American, the IRS. He is the Health and Safety Executive. He is the Benefits Office. He is the university, the school, the nursery.
Would it be, there's an element in the first part of what you were saying there of competition. So on both sides, there's opposing forces that Caesar is both of. So is there an element of that competition or argument that is Caesar itself as well?
Yes, the discussion and the debate between two opposing factions suits Caesar down to the ground, right? Okay. Because Caesar's playing both sides of the coin,
right?
Particularly in relation to government. This is clear to see. The old saying: "It doesn't matter who you vote for; the government always gets in." Mm-hmm. If that's not evident to people now, I don't really know what to say. That it is crystal clear. It doesn't matter who you vote for. The government that is Caesar, gets in.
And that's made up of the civil service, and people don't all lose their jobs when a new administration comes in, right? Those people stay there and reinforce the same things, right?
Absolutely. So the UK, it's civil service. In the US, it's the administrative state. France has its own equivalent. Germany has its own equivalent. But it's deeper even than the civil service, because all these people who are in this operation, in these operations, come from the same types of universities. They live in the same bubble. The public service broadcasting is Caesar. The BBC is Caesar. But also alternative media, that's also Caesar as well, because it's competing forces of control.
Yeah, right.
That's the point. It's all competing forces of control. The NHS in the UK, that's absolutely Caesar. There's no doubt about that. Charitable organizations, they are absolutely Caesar. They're absolutely Caesar. There isn't anything altruistic going on in large-scale charity organizations. These are power organizations which pay the people in senior positions very, very, very large salaries. But yet people are happy to give them their hard-earned money to help these mythical people abroad or somewhere like that. It's not those that people get helped. Caesar gets helped.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what's implications of this then for debate? Is debate a worthwhile thing?
Depends what's being debated, but the parameters of a lot of debate is already predetermined. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched BBC Question Time, for those in the UK. It's a long time since I watched that, but that's a good example, actually, of how nothing of any significance is ever talked about. You get occasional outliers who will be on a program like that as kind of a curiosity value, or somebody for the host to kind of poke fun at and laugh at, or marginalize in some way. You get that sometimes, but rarely.
Okay. So one person that came to mind when you said that was Jordan Peterson. A few years ago, appeared on Question Time at the height of his controversy. But a lot of things he says are very traditionalist, very conservative, perhaps, and he's not entirely. But so when he comes in and throws a curveball at the ordinary panel, as he did, is that still Caesar? Or was that moving beyond stepping outside of the box a little bit?
I don't think that it is Caesar, because he doesn't have any power. If he had power, I think it might be a different story, but he doesn't have any power. He might have some influence, but he doesn't have any power to enforce.
Right.
Caesar has power to enforce. Caesar can make things happen. Opinion formers can nudge and persuade and cajole, but unless it's full-on propaganda, they can't make things happen. They can't make people believe. I don't want to put him on a pedestal, because he's less than perfect. I don't agree with everything really that he says, but he is challenging Caesar, I would say. Okay, we go back to some of the interviews that he did. That famous Channel 4 interview with Cathy Newman. I mean, she was Caesar, and he was questioning, what the hell are you doing? And you should see the short circuit in her brain, because Caesar wants us to think that the argument is settled. There's no more debate required. Here's a matter. This is what we know. End of. That's what Caesar wants. That. Now, Caesar's quite happy for a bit of counter to that, but the counter is not of any. It's not of any threat.
No, because Caesar's already thought through that argument. But it's allowing to have.
Yeah. So, for example, I mean, just to be super controversial, but why not? You cut it out if you want. BLM is Caesar. BLM is absolutely Caesar. BLM is not an equality movement. BLM is a supremacy movement. Just a different form of supremacy. It's an alteration of the power dynamic. It's not an evening out of power. It's an alteration of the power dynamic.
And that is not to say, because I don't want to have to cut that bit out, that is not to say that all the people involved are consciously aware that that is what's happening. That's not the point. Most of them probably aren't, if not maybe none of them.
They absolutely, and that applies. You're absolutely correct, and that applies to other things as well. So the NHS is Caesar. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It is an organisation that is a bureaucracy that self-serves, that organises to condemn and coerce and cajole people into its way. But that is not to say that all doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals are consciously aware of that, or even supporting that. They might be doing their own thing. They might be kind and good people, as many BLM supporters may be kind and good people. But the people who are running it, the people who are running the NHS, the power dynamics in operation, and the people that are running BLM and the power dynamics in operation there, and many other examples. Those are not just two examples. There are many, many, many examples. They are Caesar because they are seeking to control.
Right. And it's this idea that, you know, power corrupts absolutely. So I assume is where you're going with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
People get into these positions where they can enforce control, then they're corrupted by it, and they can then justify dehumanizing people, bossing them around, forcing them into boxes they don't fit into. Okay, so perhaps you can bring more nuance to this, and the solution seems to be, or rather, first the awareness is that if we notice where anybody is trying to enforce control upon us or anybody else, and we can recognize that as Caesar, the solution being then simply to take responsibility for ourselves as much as possible, so that nobody has any reason to control us. We have no dependency on them. So
you cannot escape Caesar. If we live in a material, physical body in the material world, one of his agencies of some kind or another will come for you and demand, as it used to be called, will demand tribute. It is, I would suggest that it is suicidal, almost suicidal, to try to resist that. So the answer is to give Caesar tribute of some form, and then get on with the rest of your life.
Yeah. And like you said last time, it doesn't need to be very much.
Well, it primarily, I think, I was thinking about this, primarily I think it comes in the form of, you can get away, I think, with avoiding Caesar or not doing what Caesar says in a number of ways, but you can't get away with not paying your taxes.
Yeah.
So taxes of whatever form are levied upon you. That you may judge them to be unfair, you may judge them to be oppressive and regressive, or whatever you might say. And you may feel a sense of, well, this is my money and how dare they. But at the end of the day, that's what Caesar cares most about. So I think that the thing that you absolutely cannot ever get away with doing under any circumstances, although I know many, many people do, or try to, is dodging your taxes. I think if you dodge your taxes, Caesar will come for you eventually. Now, some people will say the super wealthy dodge their taxes all the time. Well, they don't dodge any taxes. They don't. They work within the law that Caesar has given them. Caesar has given them loopholes, so they use those loopholes.
Yeah, right.
It's not a moral issue. There's no moral issue here. It's not a moral factor. Taxation is not a moral issue. It's, if you don't pay it, Caesar will get you.
Yeah,
pay it.
It's a moral issue for those who have an urgent requirement for the collective to be real, right?
Yeah, it's taxation is a moral requirement for people who want to enforce a particular social order and need money with which to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And you can be called irresponsible, antisocial, and all
You
the
can be
other
called all sorts of
labels.
things.
Yeah.
Selfish,
Okay.
inverted commas.
Selfish. Yeah. Okay. All right. So debate is, depending on what the issue is, you said, is can we give one example of a debate that might be worth having?
Well, I suppose all debates are worth having, but it's whether it's the extent to which you emotionally invest a bit in them.
Okay.
So you can go on, you can try and be an audience member on Question Time if you want, and you see if you can get to ask a politician or a talking head some important question and try to think about it for days and days and days to try to minimize the possibility that they're going to wangle and dodge out of your question.
Mm-hmm.
And you might gain some satisfaction or some knowledge or some insight from that. Excuse me. But it will make absolutely no difference.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It will make absolutely no difference, because when they are in power, their goal is to remain in power. And they're not interested in what they have previously said to you or honouring any commitments. They're not interested in it. Mm-hmm. And some people can't deal with this because it will say immediately, this is too cynical. There's no hope here. Well, there's no hope in Caesar. Caesar is not here to make your life better. Caesar is here to control you. Mm-hmm. Caesar is unable. Politics is unable to make your life better. Mm-hmm. It may make the lives of that group of people better in exchange for support, but by doing so, it will make the lives of those people worse.
It's a redistribution.
It will redistribute the unfairness.
Right.
It will redistribute the oppression and the tyranny.
The nature of reality is unfair and unequal.
The nature of external reality is unfair and unequal. The nature of Caesar's realm is unfair and unequal. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. And so we spoke last time then that the solution is to withdraw as much as possible, not skipping your taxes, to withdraw dependence as much as possible, to become more self-responsible, and to focus on a more inner life. And that is something that perhaps we talk about in more depth next time. But for those who have withdrawn and gone into that inner life and perhaps are seeking this a sense of purpose, a unique life purpose to really be themselves fully in existence, if you like, there's still perhaps a relevance in them engaging in Caesar's world in a different way. Is that right?
Well, it could be, but Caesar is tricky, you see. Caesar is tricksy. Mm-hmm. Because he has multiple faces. So, for example, it is easy to say that any particular government in power at any particular time is corrupt, inept, evil, wicked, degenerate, It's easy to say all those things. And it's easy to forget that the last time the previous alternative party was in power, they were also the same. So Caesar is tricky because Caesar draws us into believing that that those people are the problem, but those people are righteous. So we have to make sure, if we are going to disengage from Caesar, emotional disinvestment, if we would like, if we're going to do that, we've got to make sure we fully know all people in positions of power hate you. They hate you. They do not want to help you. They do not want to help you. Institutional power is not on your side in any way, shape, or form. So apologies for ramming that home, but because it's easy to think, well, yeah, we'll do away with the Conservative Party, we'll do away with the Labour Party, let's have something brand new and everything will be hunky-dory in the kitchen. Give me a break. It's the same deal. Mm. It's the same deal wherever you go, because it's outer world events in space and time. The world cannot be perfected. We cannot perfect it. Mm-hmm. We can change it, and it changes from that type of unfairness to that type of unfairness, and that may benefit you in the course of a lifetime. Might be great to do that. But it isn't gonna ever, under Caesar's rule, it isn't ever going to make it good for everybody.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So I want to go to, before we move on, hate, strong word, but perhaps that, as I understand it, it's so subtle how this hate can come through that we've become so numb to it when it happens now, but we're not really picking up on what is hate anymore. So
True.
although it may sound like a very strong word to a lot of people, there's a very subtle expression of it a lot of the time, probably from ourselves as well. You know, I've got to catch myself when I'm being spiteful or hateful. You know, it's not good. It's extremely destructive. Hey, and so that is what Caesar is doing to us all the time. Is Caesar himself haters, or is it the agents of Caesar?
The words, hateful words or hateful thoughts is not what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's the actions that count. Mm-hmm. It's the actions that are the key here, and the actions are not accidental.
Yeah.
I could pick many examples which would be equally controversial, whichever one I picked. But we are being deprived systematically. It is being removed from us, our ability to decide what is good for us as individuals. Mm-hmm. This is being systematically stripped away. Now, it's ongoing, actually. It's not a new thing. It's been happening for quite some time. But it's accelerated in the past. Now, I don't really care. I don't draw much of a distinction if the people that do that are stripping away your ability to decide for yourself about your life, if they're doing it with a smile, or if they've got, they look a bit woke, or if they are kind of, saying soft, inclusive, diverse kind of language. I don't really care about that. I care about the actions that they're taking. Mm-hmm. The actions that they're taking are destroying the basis of our society. They're destroying the individual's ability to know what's right for them. Now, I don't know anything more hateful than that.
Mm-hmm. And so, opposite to that, then, a loving approach to others is to respect and perhaps protect their ability to become themselves more, to make their own decisions for themselves. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Every individual not only has the right, they actually have the obligation, mm-hmm. I would suggest, to determine for themselves what is right for them. Now, there are some provisos. Whatever you decide is right for you, it should not hurt other people. We've got to maybe define that a little bit, maybe. But the direction of travel that we are in is that the individual, in many, many, many ways, is having the ability to decide for themselves, removed from them. Mm-hmm. It's Caesar, with all of Caesar's army of followers, institutional power, wherever you find it, they're the ones that are doing this. They're the ones that are doing this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So for those who recognize this, who've chosen to disengage, you said to me previously, it's a matter of personal calling how much you should engage with Caesar's world. So what could that look like?
It's hard to say what it would look like, because it's got to be an individual choice. I mean, the point, I think, is to whatever level of engagement with Caesar you're going to have, this is about being clear-eyed about it. Mm. This is about being clear-eyed. Okay, so when something goes wrong in our interaction with the state or interaction with business, we expect a recourse to law. We expect justice to be done to right the wrong that has been done to us. Forget it. Forget it. The justice system does not exist to right wrongs. The justice system exists to perpetuate the power of those that are in power.
Yeah.
It exists to perpetuate existing power dynamics, or if it fancies, to move into other power dynamics so that the people at the top can somehow keep their grip on power. Mm-hmm. So miscarriages of justice are the norm. They are the order of the day. I knew somebody once who went to jail. I've actually known quite a few people who have gone to jail. That's not a euphemism for I went to jail. I know some people that went to jail for various things. Over the years, I've known them. And one person said to me, in all sincerity, they said, and they weren't naive. They were pretty clear-eyed kind of person. And they said to me, anecdotally, that you wouldn't believe the amount of people in jail for crimes that they did not commit. Justice, we're meant to celebrate in Caesar's domain when justice is served. A war is meant to be striving towards justice. There is no justice. It is power. It is power dynamics at work. The powerful will twist the justice system to their ends, and they will marginalize those that are against them. And if that's not, again, if that's not crystal clear to see in our world, I don't really know what is. I don't know what I can say.
Yep. Okay.
It's evident. It's evident in everything that happens, everything that is happening. You've only got to look. You've only got to investigate for 5 minutes to see.
Okay. So any way that we could come up with this with our own mind of how we would want to engage with the world is likely to be wrong and selfish.
The point is to be clear-eyed, and the point is not to have faith in Caesar. Caesar cannot save you. Caesar isn't interested in you. Caesar doesn't even like you. Right. Pain to Caesar. So you've got to go to something and find something which doesn't treat you like that. And just to complete the journey down the rabbit hole, the only thing that doesn't treat you like that is God. Now, everybody will have their different conceptions of this, but God is not Caesar. God is not the church, or the mosque, or the synagogue, or the temple,
which are all Caesar.
God is not dogma, because that's Caesar. God is not the priest, or the rabbi, or the imam. God is not those things, because they are Caesar. God, the establishing the individual God connection in whatever way that you can. Now, paradoxically, you can actually do this in a church or a mosque or a synagogue. Paradoxically, by going to one, you can experience it, but you experience God by using that bridge. It's not the thing itself. The church is not God. Nature does it for some people. Children does it for other people. Reading literature, poetry, music, art, design. These are because they're transcendent. There's a transcendent quality with all these things. You go beyond the world, the outer world of space-time events. That's how you connect into not Caesar. Okay. And if you root yourself in that, and okay, it takes a bit of work and there's some methods to it, but if you root yourself in that, then your interaction with Caesar, whatever it might be, big or small, will be different, because you won't believe in Caesar anymore. It's about dispelling this idea that Caesar gives a damn about you, because he doesn't.
That time and space is the only reality, that illusion. And this life, this body, is the only reality. I mean, that's the narrative of our time. We must preserve this body for as long as possible, because that's all that there is. And Caesar loves that kind of talk, but it's not the reality. It's not the facts. And we talked about this previously, and we continue with that mentality to preserve our life as long as possible. We end up becoming cybernetic as a species, plugged into the matrix and more easily controlled, which is exactly what Caesar wants, right?
Absolutely. And all the way up until that point happens is misery, because every step of the way, your individual and unique ability to get things right and get things wrong, and to learn and adapt and to change and to grow, is pulled away from you.
We're attempting to be something unnatural, something that, help me understand that. We're attempting to be something else, but learning and growth is also an attempt to be something more, isn't it?
Learning and growth is an attempt to be something more, but it's got to be individual,
right?
So I will go my way, you will go your way. Caesar says no. Caesar says we all must go the same way. Caesar will tolerate Caesar's not stupid, so Caesar will tolerate superficial difference. So, you know, you can have 20 piercings and blue hair if you want. Nothing wrong with blue hair, but you can have that if you want. And I can have a completely different identity if I want, as long as we think the same.
Yeah.
That's what Caesar wants.
Right. Okay. So to learn, to grow, to possibly create a unique thought through our own investigations of life, and then would you say it's through that connection with the divine, with God, with the transcendent, there that we would be shown how we should engage with Caesar's world, if we are to at all?
Well, it takes a bit of practice for sure, but the God connection, taking guidance from God, is a better bet than taking guidance from Caesar. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So currently we have a situation where Caesar, institutional power, is dictating how we can reach God. This way is acceptable, this way is insane, this way is far right, this way is fundamentalist. Caesar decides how we can reach God. You've got to invert that. God decides how we should interact with Caesar. That's a much better way of approaching it.
Okay. Yep. Good.
That's the root that you've got to, that's the soil that you've got to plant yourself in. God then gives guidance through conscience and knowings and inspiration, intuition, all other manner of ways in how to interact with Caesar and under what circumstances and how far.
Okay, right. So next time I suggest that we go into that some more, talking about how we form that connection and how we move toward this idea of unique life purpose. Okay.
Which is something that Caesar does not want. So
no,
we will do
wants
that.
everything to be the same. Okay, right. No uniqueness. Right. Thank you again, Richard. Very enlightening as always. Look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you very much.